You're listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, where faith
and what's trending collide. Welcome to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. This is Eddie.
What's up, everyone? This is Miguel, and you are listening to the God Life Culture Podcast. If this is your first time listening, we want to say welcome to the God Life Culture Podcast. We hope that you enjoyed today's conversation. And for all of you who are joining us again, and you are a returning listener, we want to say welcome back, and we hope that you are doing well and that today you are encouraged and blessed by our conversation. We are not officially in summer yet, actually. We're still in spring, but the weather has been very nice, right? And we are approaching the month of June, which is our birthday month, right? So our birthday is actually in a few days, depending on when you are listening to this. And it is the start of the summer.
Yeah, I think after the May holiday, everyone is in summer spirit. And it was weird. Like, I was listening to my coworkers, and they were talking about how once 4th of July happened, summer's over. And I was like, what? I was like, if that's your mentality, that's crazy. So I don't know. Some people are weird that way. But it definitely is the start of the summer. The weather, at least here in the East Coast in New York, the weather's getting great. It's getting nice. We're able to enjoy stuff more outdoors. But with that comes all the parties. June is a very hectic month for us. It's our birthdays. It's your son's birthday. You have school graduations. You have people celebrating milestones. We just got out of a baby shower. And it's just there's a lot that is happening, which is all great things. And I think we spoke about this in the beginning of the year, where this year was going to be very busy for us, but very busy with a lot of fun things, a lot of great and exciting things. So we're just definitely looking forward to that. Just like really enjoying the moment, enjoying the experiences, living in the moment, living in the experiences, and just, trying to have a great summer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I was talking to my family about it because, like you said, we just had my brother's baby shower, right? Yeah. And so that was in May, and then my brother's birthday is May 29th. My birthday is June 4th, right? My son's birthday is June 13th. Father's Day is a few days later. I think it's the 17th or something this year. And then my brother's baby's birthday is due in June, sometime in June. And then my wife's birthday is July 1st. Yeah. So it's crazy, right? Yeah. For the whole summer months. But like you said, I think it's good things. And I think it kind of sometimes forces you to take time, right? And enjoy time with people that you love and your family, and stop and celebrate. And even if it's something small or, something big, you take the moment to stop and enjoy that moment, And I think, even for me, as like having, my son turn 1 year old in just a few weeks, it's that idea of like, man, time really does fly. Now I understand when people say that time flies and time goes by quickly, while at the same time trying to enjoy every single moment, and you don't get that time back. Yeah. So that's the crazy part about everything. But so let that be our encouragement to you to take time out to be intentional and enjoy moments, celebrate moments, do something, whether it's for your birthday or for someone else, right? Just take time for you to enjoy, this time in your life. And today we want to talk about a topic that I think everyone can relate to. Everyone has experienced at one point or another. Everyone has gone through this, I think, at one point. If you haven't yet, you will eventually. And it's the idea of frustration. If you had to first define frustration, right? Because I think this is one of those words that people can say often, like, I'm frustrated, or they have me so frustrated, or I'm feeling so frustrated. What does that mean when you're frustrated? Like, how is that different than you being sad or you being angry or depressed, right? Frustrated. It has its own meaning, I think.
I think it's a combination of all those feelings, where you can feel sad, you can feel angry, you can feel confused. But I think one of the the major components of that is also feeling stuck. Like, you know, I'm angry, but I'm stuck. I don't know how to fix the solution. I don't know what a solution would look like. I don't know who to go to. I don't know what to do. I know something needs to change, but I don't know what needs to change. So that can make you angry. That can make you sad. That can make you confused. That can make you depressed. All these other things. But it's the idea of feeling all of those emotions while simultaneously feeling stuck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I like that. I like that idea because I think a lot of times there are things that we wish we can control, right? And I think a lot of things in our life, a lot of the frustrations that we experience can come from a lack of control, right? So it's like if I can just control every single area of my life, if I can just control even like my triggers and my struggles, if I can just control, even other people and how they are and how they react or how they interact with me, then it would make my life a lot easier. But the problem is, or the truth of the matter is, you are not in control a lot of times of many of these things. You can't control what people do, right? Or what they say, or how they can hurt you, or how they can betray you. You can't control sometimes some of the circumstances you face in life, right? It's like, loss of a job all of a sudden, it's like you didn't see that coming. You couldn't have planned for it, right? So it's like there's certain things in life that occur and happen that leave you kind of feeling powerless and unable to really control something. And I think a lot of times, like you said, it's like that feeling of being stuck, right? I've run out of ideas or I've run out of options because I've tried it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like the key. It's like, it's not just saying, I feel stuck and you haven't tried anything. It's like, no, I've tried things. I've tried different strategies. I've tried different ways and methods. And it seems like I keep running into a wall, and you can get frustrated, right? And grow frustrated as to why something may not be working for you.
I mean, I would hope that you have tried it. I would hope that you have brainstormed. But I mean, my experience on this walk has been that I have come across people that sit in their frustration but haven't tried it, haven't planned anything, haven't tried different scenarios or solutions or plans or whatever to get them out of that frustration or to try to find a solution for the frustration. So I think the first thing really when it comes to, because ideally the conversation that we're trying to have is not only the fact that we want to acknowledge that frustration is something that everyone experiences, but also how do you get out of that funk? How do you get out of the frustration? And I think the first thing really is to acknowledge or to be able to step back and introspective and be like, have I knocked on all the doors? Have I sat down and really thought of possible solutions? Have I done everything at my disposal to be able to do to try to change whatever it is that's frustrating me, whether it be my financial situation, whether it be my situation in my relationships or lack of relationships, whether it be what's going on in my church, what's going on in ministry. Have you really put in the time, the effort to really try to shift that? And I think that's the first thing, because when there are times where people, run into a wall. It happens to all of us. And they just stay there. When sometimes that wall is made out of glass. Just grab a hammer and hit it. Grab a rock, take your shoe off and throw it at it. You'll be able to pass through that frustration. But because they found themselves in that barrier, they just sit there and sulk. So the first thing is really take a look at yourself and your situation and be like, is this something that I am able to surpass? There are things in life that is, you got to leave that at God's hands. Yeah. That doesn't matter who you go to. It doesn't matter what you do, how many backflips you do, how many mountains you climb. It's not going to change if God doesn't want that to shift or change at this moment in your life. But there's other things that it's at your disposal to do. You just got to get up and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you said that, because I think a lot of times, I mean, we say this often, it is easy to stay in your situation, right? It is easy to stay in your frustration, to sit in it, to live in it, right? And to live day in and day out in your frustration. And I think that there are people that have come to accept that that's what their life is going to be, and that's what life is like for them. They're just going to be forever frustrated. And this can be for a plethora of reasons. This could be because I feel people don't understand understand me, right? So I'm constantly frustrated because I feel like when I express myself or when I speak and when I speak to other people, they just don't understand where I'm coming from, or they don't understand my personality. They don't understand my attitude. They don't see my point of view or my perspective. So I stay stuck with that, and that becomes my identity. So now forever, I'm just this person that's misunderstood. I'm just this person that, I talk and no one gets it. I say things and no one agrees with me. I'm always causing some type of conflict or trauma, and that just becomes my norm. It becomes my truth, right? So I'm forever frustrated in this cycle, but ask yourself, right, and question, have I done something to break this cycle, right? Have I done some real work and investigation to see why is it that I come across this way, right? And that's where, again, a lot of us may not like to do those, like that self-reflection, because it's hard to acknowledge those areas of our life. Sometimes it is other people's fault, right? And it's out of your control, and we can talk about that, but there are moments where you have to let go of that control and come to the understanding, I can't allow that situation to frustrate me because it's out of my control, right? You almost take on like other people's burdens and other people's issues. You take it on for yourself, and there comes a point where you may be able to do that for a season, but then there's a time where you need to let that go because it's not yours to carry. But then there are moments where this is your burden. This is your thing, right? This is not a they problem. This is a me problem. So it's self-reflection and self-examination of what am I doing that's bringing this frustration upon myself. And it could simply be that you are not confronting it, right? So it could be, it's like I've identified what the frustration is. I know what it is that's frustrating me, right? But I'm not confronting it. I understand it, but I'm just living with it. I see it, but I'm learning to cope with it. I see it, and I'm learning to kind of adjust and live my life with that thing, or with that habit, or with that personality, or that thing that is just frustrating me.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you hit on that I think is very important is that when you enter into realization of when something is out of your control, you really got to let that go. It's like, for example, you work for a company, you work in accounting, and the IT department has an issue that continues to frustrate you. Whatever, the system is always crashing or the system is always slow. You went to the IT head, you went to the VP, you wrote a letter to the CEO. For whatever reason, they don't want to fix it. Could be that they don't have the funding for it in the budget this year, or they don't think it's as big as a problem as you do. You have an option. You have two options. One, which is, do you keep getting mad at everybody? The system is so slow. The system could be better. And every day when you go to work, you're upset and frustrated about something that's out of your control. Or do you just let it go? The system crashed. I'm going to go get coffee. The system crashed. I'm going to go walk around the block. There's ways to, there's certain things that is really, it's out of your hands. It's not your control. It does affect you, but unfortunately, you're not in a position to fix it because it's at the mercy of other people. So learn to let go. Learn to be in a place where when those moments come up where it can affect you negatively, to switch that to an opportunity for you to be like, well, it's time for me to go to another break or whatever. Because if not, you're always going to live in that misery. Obviously, you can always leave the job and go somewhere else, but there's times where you're stuck in a situation where you can't leave for whatever reason it is. Maybe you're in a church where you feel like one of the departments isn't working to its fullest ability, and you've brought it up, and you've brought up examples, and you brought up ideas or whatever, but for some reason they're not moving at the pace that you feel like they should be moving in. It's out of your control, buddy. If that's not your ministry, if that's not who you're not in the leadership team for that, if they don't want to move forward with anything, you have to be like, well, Lord, that's in your hands. I'm just going to let that be and, be happy somewhere else, or putting my energy and focus somewhere else. But the idea that there are things that has to do with you and you need to fix and you need to get right, absolutely. But there's other times where that has nothing to do with you. Let that frustration go.
And sometimes when you take a moment to sit back and think about that frustration that you are experiencing or that thing that you're feeling, again, it's up to you and how you view it, because you can view it as something that you don't like, you dislike. It's something that's bringing you stress in your life and all these things. But then sometimes I also believe that there are moments where frustration is a good thing and God can use it, right? Yes. So it's like there are moments where I can be extremely frustrated with something I see that's not working. I may have a solution. I may have an idea. I may have something, let's say, but I don't do anything with it. I just put it to the side. But there's this constant like nagging, right, about that one thing. And I think that sometimes God will use that frustration that we are feeling to bring something out of us, right, that is actually good and something that is great and something that can be of a blessing, you know? So I think it's like that kind of decision where it's like I can let this frustration eat me alive, where I stay stuck and I stop doing everything, right? But I could also tap into this frustration and see, you know, how can I grow from here? Or how can I progress from here? How can I take something that I'm extremely frustrated with, and how could I choose to not be a victim to it and choose to actually do something about it, right? And I think, you know, an example can be of just a real practical example, right? Could be like individuals with like, you know, their health, right? Where they can be frustrated with trying different things. It seems like it doesn't work or whatever, and they can kind of like give up. But they can also like take a step back and after a while feel tired of feeling frustrated and being frustrated and decide to do something. And that decision to do something, it may be something different than what was done before, right? And it may be something that's new. It may be something that's unique, right? But you still take the risk to do it anyway. And I think a lot of times our frustration, if it's going to do something to us, if there's going to be a side effect per se of frustration, let it be that it pushes us to try to do something different to get out of it, right? And I think that a lot of times, like I said, we can choose to stay in it. We can choose to stay stuck in our frustration and not grow. But we can choose to allow that frustration to kind of like, you know, I think God can use it to move us, right? To do something different, to grow something. And it's like this was birthed out of a frustration. I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like how I felt. I didn't like how my life was, you know, going and where my life was headed. So I decided to make a change. So it was like that frustration that you felt, right, prompted you to come up with something new to change for the better. And I think that you could also get frustrated with your accomplishments or frustrated with the level that you are at, where it seems like I'm not being challenged. I'm not really growing. I'm not really like, you know, diminishing. I'm just okay where I'm at. And sometimes there are people that don't like that feeling, right? And it's like, okay, I need to do something that's going to challenge me. I need to do something that's going to like, you know, make me work a little bit harder and do something a little bit different. So again, I tap into that frustration and ask myself, how could I take this frustration and allow it to work for me?
Yeah. And I think, you know, one of the things too is that you have to realize that sometimes the solution to your frustration is going to cost you. So what I mean by that is that going by the narrative, the example that Miguel was using in reference to health, you know, you want to work out, you want to get healthy or whatever. Sometimes that $10 membership to Planet Fitness or to Retro Fitness or whatever is not the solution for you. Because that $10 is easy, is low money, there's no accountability, but you also know it's not going to motivate you to go to the gym. That works for some people. The $10 a month, they go to the gym as much as they need to, they lose the weight or whatever. Sometimes you got to pay the extra. Sometimes you have to pay them more for the personal trainer, or you have to pay them more to go into classes, or you got to pay them more to go into circuit training, or to go and do a CrossFit or something else that is going to be more exciting and more motivating for you to go ahead and do. So there are times that the solution to your frustration is going to cost you more, whether it is time-wise, whether it is financially, whether it's going to take more out of you. You have to be willing to pay the price. You cannot be a person that sees that you're frustrated and then sees an option for solution and is like, that's too much work. I'll just stay here. Because to pay the $100 a month versus the $10 a month where nobody's bothering me, I'd rather pay the $10. Then you're going to stick in your frustration and stay complaining for the next 10 to 20 years and find yourself in the same place. You have to be able to pay the price for it.
Yeah. And I love that. It's going to cost you something. And again, it's like, it takes work. It's hard work to get out of that, you know? And I think a lot of times when we talk about frustration too, when we think about it, like I think about just certain times I was frustrated with, you know, things and certain moments in my life. A lot of it had to do with my own timeline and expectation, right? So it necessarily didn't have anything to do with people or other outside sources. It was just simply timelines I placed on things or expectations and ways I thought things were going to go, right? Or it was going to happen in this way. I thought God would do this. He didn't. I thought God was going to take me here. He didn't. I thought God was going to lead me down this path. He didn't. In essence, it's like that has nothing to do with God and himself, right? That's me. Right? Thinking according to my sight, my mind, my thoughts, right? This is what's going to happen. Yeah. So I think when you have these expectations and you have these thoughts of this is how my life is going to be, or this is how God is going to come through for me, this is how God is going to, lift me up in my ministry and my talents, my career, my gift, and then it doesn't happen the way you thought, that obviously leads you to a place of feeling frustrated, right? And side effects of frustration are feelings of stress, anxiety, sometimes depression, sadness, worry, fear, right? Frustration kind of leads you down a path of many different feelings and side effects. But when you come to look at it, I feel like a lot of times it's because it was what we wanted. It was our will we were concerned with. It was what we thought was best for us for the time. We can look at a situation that's frustrating us, right? That's external, that we may not have a lot to do with, yet we think we have a method or we have a solution. We have something that, can fix the problem. And I think a lot of times there are moments where God can use you to do that. God can definitely give something to you that can help fix a problem or have a solution. But then there are moments where it's like, it's just like you weren't called to that for that moment.
That's true.
It's like, you had a solution, but can I tell you something? You weren't the one God wanted to use to bring about that solution or that change. So I think it's hard, especially for visionaries, right? And people who have big vision and ideas and thoughts and depth to their life, to see a problem and know how to fix it, but feel frustrated because they're not able to fix it, either because they're not in position or either because they don't have the authority or whatever the position you could say. And it's frustrating when you feel like you have answers, right? While at the same time balancing that with, well, if God didn't call me to that right now, if God is not opening the door for me to work in that specific area, it has to be because this is something I really want and not something God wants for me right now. And it could just be a timing issue, right? It could also be an issue of this is not what you are called to at this moment. It's not that your idea is not good. It's not that your idea is not, let's say, of value. It's just not what God wants for this time. So I think it's analyzing our frustrations and asking ourselves, is this my will or is this God's will? And if this is my will and my thoughts and my timeline and my expectation, I can't blame God and grow frustrated at God with something that I put in place, with the time I set, right? Because it's like, God didn't set that. I did. So now I'm growing frustrated, not because God, said it and didn't come through, but because I said it and it didn't happen when I wanted to.
Yeah. So we hope that, that if you find yourself in a situation of being frustrated, that these words motivate you to take a look at yourself, take a look at your surroundings, and figure out what's in your control to change and what isn't. And you need to release and let go and let God deal with that in your life. So.
Yeah. So today's a short one. We hope that you take, these ideas and these thoughts, think about it. And that is the challenge every time we record and when we do things, right? It's to leave you with a thought to think about, to leave you with something to marinate in your life and, within you, to just ask yourself, are there things that are frustrating you? What can you do? What is within your power to do to get out of that frustration? And, see, is this something that you put yourself in, that you're kind of bringing upon yourself, or is this something that God is allowing, to happen around you, and this is just a lesson he's teaching you, a process he's taking you through, or something he's trying to really instill, right, in your life? So self-reflect, analyze. Only you can answer those questions, and we hope that you can get out of that frustration and, like you said, let go, and obviously let God take over that situation in your life. So we thank you for tuning in today. We thank you for listening, and we hope that you are coming up with a plan to enjoy the summer, that you are coming up with a plan to enjoy the summer months. And maybe if you have time off, if you are off from school or off from work, that you are coming up with a plan from now to enjoy the time that you have been given, so that you are not home frustrated and you are not home worried and, anxious and sad, right? That you go out there, do something different and, experience some good things in life.
Absolutely.
So, like always, you can follow us on social media at God Life Culture Podcast. You can leave a review for us on our podcast page. You can leave a rating for us there as well. If you have done that, we thank you. There have been a lot of ratings and reviews coming in these last few weeks and a lot of new listeners. So thank you so much for tuning in, for listening. And we hope that you continue to tune in to the God Life Culture Podcast.
Yeah, so thank you once again for tuning into the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. That's
God Life Culture.
Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.